I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Luke.
Tonight we have a sign language interpreter with us. Her name is Linda, and she's sitting here in the front row. Welcome. We're going to start tonight with public participation and the recognition. We're starting with Clinton Rosette Middle School wrestling team. At the IESA State Wrestling Tournament held March 11th and 12th, Clinton Rosette wrestlers John Bannister finished 4th in state at 126 pounds, and Walter Green finished 5th in the state at 85 pounds. Other state qualifiers were Dylan Ball at 65 pounds, Rory Burright, 65 pounds, Luke Shermach, 95 pounds, Dylan Vito, 112 pounds, and Brian Mora, 215 pounds. Congratulations to them.
Coach Waller couldn't be here tonight, but they wanted to share how much they're impressed with the boys that could come tonight, as well as all the entire wrestling team. They've been not only hard workers, but they win and lose with class throughout the season. They're a model of really what a great team can be. So.
Certificate here for the team. So, congratulations.
There you go, guys. Yeah.
Next, we have the recognition of the Huntley Middle School wrestling team. At the IESA State Wrestling Tournament held March 11th and 12th, Huntley Middle School wrestlers Ben Armadad placed 3rd at 70 pounds, Caleb Nadig placed 4th at 80 pounds, and Kyler Papelgarad placed 5th at 100 pounds. Other state qualifiers were Blake McGee, 75 pounds, Michael Clayton, 105 pounds, Nels Lawrence, 167 pounds, and George Colbert, 275 pounds. Congratulations.
Similar to what Mr. Benson said, these young men not only are good wrestlers, but they're outstanding citizens, very good students. They are what we embody here at Huntley as really good kids. The nice thing is, Placer, Aranda, Nadig, and Clapper that placed this year. We have 2 6th graders and a 7th grader. So we're looking for big things next year too.
We have the recognition of the DHS winter teams. First, on wrestling, the boys wrestling team won the Northern Illinois Big 12 Conference East Division and Northern Illinois Big 12 Conference Tournament. They also had 2 individuals qualify for the IHSA State Tournament. State qualifiers were Ulysses Jacobo at 132 pounds and Brandon McGee at 126 pounds. Congratulations.
just real quick, just want to congratulate these guys on a great season. Brendan was our team captain this year. Instead of bringing in 50 guys for being all conference, we just brought in our team captain, and he did a great job representing the team. We had 2 state qualifiers. We were conference champions as a team, and not only for the dual meets, but also for the tournaments. And we had our 2 state qualifiers, and he's moving on to wrestle at the next level at Lincoln College. So.
Next up, we have the boys swim team from the independent conference meet at the Northern Illinois Big 12 conference meet. They had 2 individuals and 2 relays qualify for the state tournament. Results from the state tournament were as follows. Daniel Hines, 200-yard melody relay, 6th place at state. 400-yard freestyle relay, 12th place at state. 100-yard butterfly, 2nd place at state. And 100-yard backstroke, 1st place at state. Jacob Bork, 200-yard melody relay, 6th place at state. 400-yard freestyle relay, 12th at state. 100-yard freestyle, 18th place at state. 100-yard breaststroke, 6th place at state. Riley Laus, 200-yard medley, 6th place at state. 400-yard freestyle relay, 12th place at state. Dylan Rasmussen, 200-yard medley relay, 6th place at state. And Austin Bachman, 400-yard freestyle relay, 12th place at state. Also, we have a state record holder here, don't we?
Yeah. Daniel also, just to kind of piggyback off that, was nominated as the Senior Swimmer of the Year by the state of Illinois. So we got to go to an additional banquet and celebration for that. Kind of going off that, this group of boys up here has accomplished a lot in their journey with the DHS SHS Swim Co-op. They bring a lot of energy and leadership to our program. They have done a lot of things that have made our 2 towns very proud. We are unique in that we are a co-op program, but it's very exciting to be able to represent both communities. This year, one of their big goals was winning our independent conference meet, and we were able to do that. We also won our school's independent conference meet, which was a lot of fun as well. So congratulations to these boys. They have accomplished some huge celebrations. We've got several of them going on and swimming in college next year, which is also always an added bonus. So congratulations, guys.
47.
I don't even want to
Hi, how are you? We have the boys basketball team won the NIB 12 conference, won the Northern Illinois Big 12 conference for the 2nd straight year. They also won their own Chuck Dayton Classic over Geneva and took 1st place at the Hananiga Martin Luther King Jr. Congratulations.
Real proud of these young men, both on and off the court. Our back-to-back conference champions for the first time in over 50 years in DeKalb. In doing so, our 25 wins ranks us in one of the top 10 teams all time. But even more importantly, we had 2 members, including Robert Mitchell here, Illinois State Scholars. We had 5 members of the National Honor Society. Wes was 1. Michael's the other, Robert, all right. And our team GPA was 3.61.
Systems budget is something that they used to use with their board meetings. Just don't try to-
Next we have the girls, or the boys bowling. The team placed first in the Northern Illinois Big 12 Conference Tournament. Senior Ramsey Collins qualified individually for the IHSA state finals.
Randy's been a good student, and a big asset for the Barbs. First year going to states, been close every year. Was on the 2014 regional champions. Now it's his first boys state qualifier. Currently has a scholarship to go for University in Cedar Rapids.
Here comes the gymnastics team.
That's what I like to see.
Yep.
Carrying something that shines.
Hey, you want to keep that up here in the
I know I
front.
did.
Next up, we have the girls gymnastics team,
There you go.
which placed second at the state tournament and were conference,
Yeah,
regional,
but I tell
and sectional
Geez,
team
that girl goes long on
champions.
the floor.
Yeah.
You know, hard to work. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good one.
that is a lot of, yeah. All conference selections: Alita Lehman, vault, bars, beam, floor, and all around. Madison Hickey, vault, bars, floor, and all around. Lauren Lehman, bars, and Kathleen Nelson, vault, beam, all around. Regionals: Aaliyah Lehman, vault, bars, all around champion, and floor second place. Madison Hickey, floor competition, second, vault, bars, all around, third, beam. Lauren Lehman, second beam, third bars. Caitlin Nelson, third, vault, fourth beam, floor all around. And Kendall Tucker, sixth on the bars. Sectionals: Aaliyah Lehman, all around bar, beam champion, second vault, and fourth on the floor. Madison Hickey, floor champion, third vault, fourth all around. And Lauren Lehman, second bars. State placers: Aaliyah Lehman, third place vault, second place beam, first place floor, third place all around. Madison Hickey, third place bars, fifth place floor, and Lauren Lehman, fifth place bars. Congratulations.
Just great season. The girls worked so hard to get where they were at. One thing since the state tournament, Aaliyah Lehman has Last weekend qualified for Junior Olympic Nationals down in Fort Worth, Texas. Zero. Or Zoe. Zoe.
Congratulations. This is very impressive. You gotta start. There we go. We have one more recognition tonight. It's our head cooks, level 1 certified in school nutrition, and Miss Carrie Warner is going to speak. Warren.
Can you bring some snacks?
Good evening. And tonight I would like to recognize our 3 head cooks, and they've achieved some greatness in the last 7 months, I must say. And I'd like to recognize them in special regards to the School Nutrition Association Level 1 Certificate Program. And this is a new program that's initiated by USDA and also the School Nutrition Association, which is our legal entity that we work by. So all 3 cooks, Vicky Stanton, Gina Rose, and Brenda Tangeman are our head cooks, and they have achieved this recognition. They all have achieved their Level 1 certificate as food service nutrition specialists. So I'd like to give them a great job. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We have a public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. Stephanie Gooden, student support. You can go there.
Sure. Hello. My resignation is on the board meeting agenda tonight, and I would like you to know that Brooks is an amazing building, and our principal has re-energized our staff. I did not want to leave Brooks, however, with redistricting, my family does not have a choice. I'm not here to complain about the redistricting. I'm here as a family dealing with an 8 and a 6-year-old who are trying to understand why after 4 years of being part of Brooks, why do they have to leave? The open houses are a great idea, and I have reached out to Jefferson as a plan to dive in with both feet where my kids will be attending. However, there are some students in our schools who will not have this kind of support and guidance at home. Is there a plan in place to support them in the fall? There are some students who excel in the classroom, and without a gifted elementary program, teachers at our current school take extra time to provide opportunities for these kids to stay challenged. Is there a plan in place to discuss students who are moving into new buildings to prevent lag time with their advancement in the classroom? The staff of the school is the lifeline and backbone of our students' education. Is the staff being prepped and supported on how to help these new students make the transition emotionally and socially? My hope is these conversations are being held at the district level to support everyone in this process. Coming from Brooks, where our principal, our PTA, and staff are being proactive in helping the new families that are coming in, and they do have a plan to continue support throughout the fall, my hope is that this is the model set forth for all the schools. Please don't stop with the open houses. Keep your ears and eyes open, as in the fall you're going to have young students and families in need of help still through this adjustment. Thank you.
Thank you. You bring some very good points. Thank you. Next, Steve Hamilton on superintendent's letter.
Yes, I want to thank Superintendent Mueller for his letter on social justice training. It was on the district's website to improve the cultural competency of the staff at District 428. I just wanted to read a brief intro of the letter. The vision statement for our school district is, our mission is to educate our students to reach their potential while preparing them to contribute to our global society. A necessary condition to achieve this mission is for our students to understand what a global society looks like. The crux of this understanding is awareness of various cultures, societal norms, and values of people who are different from us. The first step in this process should begin with an understanding of people who are different from us in our own community. To that end, School District DeKalb, School District 428 is making a commitment to expand the knowledge base on issues related to social justice and diversity for our staff and students. And I wanted to, something that struck me in reading that last sentence was that oftentimes we, in reading it, will think of it from our own perspective. And when it says our community, sometimes that can get translated into the people different from us are people of color, which then gets translated into, well, aren't they a part of our community? And so in that perspective, I would like to challenge people to think of it in multiple ways, not just from their own perspective. And so it's a two-way street in terms of multiple-way street, I guess you could say, in terms of people perceiving that who is in our community and the embracing of all cultures in our community from each of their perspectives. And so when we read that, think about how that hits you and how that should be thought of in terms of a broader vision of our community and not just from one's own cultural, ethnic perspective.
Thank you. Next, we have board committee reports and correspondence.
Curriculum Council met last on the 7th. And we got an update on how the ELDC curriculum is starting to meet Common Core. At Rosette, they're running a computer coding curriculum in the 6th grade. There are 90 students doing this, and it's the program that they're using to teach the coding is from MIT. It's called Scratch, and it's free. It's to help get the science curriculum aligned to the NGSS standards and they're talking about moving it over to Huntley. So hopefully the students at Huntley can benefit from this too. There was a discussion about the life skills math curriculum and students who are on the diploma track but still need math intervention. The textbooks are not Common Core compliant and they're from 2003, so that's an issue. And then there was a discussion about some K-5 writing materials that Christy gave and Kim Law gave, and to try to make more writing integrate into our existing programs for our primary school students. So that will be coming to us, I think, we'll cover it.
Safety Task Force met yesterday, and there was some discussion about egress, is the word I'm trying to think of. Egress from the high school, particularly the academic areas during fire drills and so on. This was brought up at a previous Safety Task Force meeting, and some observation was done during the fire drill. And so they believe now, they being Tammy and the folks that did the observation, that there is perhaps a solution other than adding more exits. So that's yet to be found, but it looks promising at this point that there may be some changes to protocol or to how they exit that may solve some of the apparent congestion during that. So that was one good thing to hear. Another thing that was discussed, and it's unresolved, but a good start, is protocols for bus safety, for away field trips, overnight field trips, things like that, contact lists on how you find someone if you need someone, and also just general protocols for any sorts of hazards, accidents, and those kinds of things. So that's being worked on, and some good progress.
Yeah, it's Steve mentioned in the letter, that was, those of you that may not receive a copy, went out to all staff and all families regarding professional development. We're starting with a core group of people, about 16 or 18 staff members, not just a couple of administrators, teachers, support staff, instructional assistants, custodial staff. They're going to be involved in training that's starting tomorrow night from 6 to 8:30. Do you mind if I introduce somebody here?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have Dr. Katrina Caldwell. Is she still here? She is not. Okay, she was here. She is the one. She's the vice president of student affairs, and also works with the Dr. Denise Sexual-Walden in the office of diversity, and they're going to be the ones facilitating it. And so this is a 6-week program, 2.5 hours a night, and we are, those of us that are going to be in this first group, it is actually going to allow us, we will be certified to do training after that. So we are so indebted to NIU for providing these resources, and Dr. Walden flat out said any resources that come out of our department, there is no charge whatsoever. And we are also starting next Monday a voluntary group for students to engage in dialogue regarding diversity, and it'll be facilitated also by trained people from NIU, and we'll just wait and see how many students we have. But the key is to get smaller groups of students. You can't do this in an auditorium with 500 people. You got to be able to get small groups of students together, and the facilitator's role is to help everybody feel a certain level of comfort, understands a safe space where opposing perspectives can be presented in a respectful manner. And so we're just dipping our toe in the water this year, but with 16 or 18 trainers that we'll have at the end of the school year. Next year, then we will go out. Don't mean to be blasphemous here, but I kind of the cycles that go out then, and then work with other groups of staff. And Dr. Jen, you've been instrumental in helping set this up as well. So over great. Yeah. Looking forward to get started tomorrow night.
And then just one last thing, the DeKalb Education Foundation, their fundraiser, the Boots Boogie fundraiser is Saturday, April 30th at the Country Club here in DeKalb, and Back Country Roads will be playing at 7 a.m.
person.
And Melissa has tickets if anybody needs.
I know. All right.
Anybody else before we move on?
Okay. Next presentations. Proposal for creation of satellite NIA deaf and hard of hearing program. Christy Meyer, and this is an informational item.
Good evening. So I want to tell you about an opportunity that we have in DeKalb. At the end of February, I got a call from John Malone, who is the director of Northwestern Illinois Association, or NIA. NIA, we contract with them to provide our vision, hearing, occupational therapy, physical therapy, a number of services that we get from NIA. They also support a program for deaf and hard of hearing students. This program is specialized in that we have right now 7 of our students, DeKalb students, who travel to Hampshire in order to access this program. In February, I was made aware that this program is moving from Hampshire to Algonquin. So given that, I was talking to the director and knowing that state code's guidelines are to look for placements that are within an hour's traveling distance from your school district, okay? I thought that this would be a great opportunity to create a satellite program for deaf and hard of hearing students in back in DeKalb, District 428. So I say back in DeKalb because many a year ago, we had the program here, the whole program, NIA program in DeKalb. How it's structured right now is that students from many districts come to Hampshire, or next year Algonquin, to access the program. The problem is that the districts, the reason it's moving, and it was in Burlington last year, it's in Hampshire this year, and next year Algonquin, the reason it's moving is because of the space that is needed to support the current program. For example, for a kindergarten class, there's a classroom space with the students who are deaf and hard of hearing in kindergarten and the teacher of the deaf, okay? So that's a classroom space for kindergarten, classroom space for first grade, and so forth. Some of, I know first grade this year, they are doing a co-teaching method, which is a nice method to support our students who are deaf and hard of hearing. But anyway, any district, it would be, as you know, expensive to continue to host that amount of space in any one district. So looking for the sustainability of a program, a satellite program, I want to present to you an option for DeKalb so that we can maintain a consistent program right here. And let me share a little bit more about that. So that's why the proposed change. So how we would like to do this is to have 2 centers, an elementary and a middle school center at this time. Of course, that's because the students who currently access the program are in elementary and middle school. We do have one pre-K, sweet little pre-K student, but we're looking at a program that is in Geneva to serve her needs at this time. So when looking at our space availability, as well as buildings that don't currently house specialized programs, we looked to Tyler Elementary and Clinton Rosette Middle School. So what we're looking at as this model is to to adopt that co-teaching model. So what that would look like is that you would have a deaf educator and a general educator, let's say in 2nd grade, is one of our grades, co-teaching together, working together to serve the student students who may be deaf and hard of hearing, but also notice that it also would serve the greater group of the students as well, the hearing, deaf, and hard of hearing students. It's a wonderful model because all benefit. We would do that co-teaching model in 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. Now this would depend, of course, on the needs of the students as to what, when the students need to access the teacher of the deaf, or when an interpreter in a general ed classroom would be needed. Okay? So, as it says there will be an interpreter at each of the service centers as well. And then creative scheduling, I've been working with Mr. Vincent and Mrs. Mitchell in order to create a schedule to allow for us to have the co-teaching method, but also to make sure that we're meeting those necessary IEP minutes that are currently documented. So other supports that are necessary is a supervisor for the, now we currently contract for these through NIA in the program, but we will continue that contract. Supervisor of the deaf and hard of hearing counseling, FM support, okay, audiology support, and we will be having a speech and language pathologist who signs. And Tammy, if you can, I wanted to point, just hover over the red, let's go back a second, hover, and it should, there we go. The reason that your board docs, this was actually updated today because I got an email today from NIA updating the cost sheet. So as you may or may not be able to see, based on the size, I wanted to show you that in this year, as we're sending students to Hampshire, essentially the cost of the program for our 6 students, I kept out the pre-K student because I wanted to compare apples to apples. This year's program with 6 students, next year's program with 6 students, okay? Currently, this program costs our district for the year-long program $263,000. That is including the transportation. Note that you might think, boy, $18,000, not too expensive for transportation all the way to Hampshire and back. It's $261 for each route daily, and we have 2 routes that go there. But we get an 80% reimbursement from the state for that. So so I included that in that cost, okay? Then if you look at then the contract for next year, we would have 3 teachers, 2 interpreters, and then I added support staff. I didn't itemize those, but know that that's included in there. Transportation costs will be none. We'll have 2 resource room spaces that we'll need for extra support for our students. And so the total cost would be at that $320,000, okay? Additional revenue. At this point, is we have a tentative possibility of having a student from another district join our program here, our satellite program here. The hope is that we would also have additional students coming in. As soon as more students come in, then that cost would be, the cost per student, of course, would be lower. So at this point, for this proposal of bringing the satellite to, for a deaf and hard of hearing students to DeKalb, it would be $11,585. Thanks, Tammy. So I wonder if you have any questions for me. Mary?
Do you have any idea of, throughout DeKalb County and other school districts, how many students are also being sent to Hampshire that we might be able to gain participation?
Great. Well, I know at this point, there's one.
Okay.
That is a very good possibility. I have understanding that there may be another, not from DeKalb County, but a nearby county. And also, where they're investigating, they're waiting to hear about the thumbs up for DeKalb to move forward with this satellite, and there could be potentials.
Okay.
But for next year, we're being very specific about moving forward with 2nd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. So if we need to look for students that fit into those
That was
grades.
my second question.
All right,
yes.
at this point. If we see that there's enough to support the hiring of another teacher, then we could move forward with that, but we would need to, at this point, look at those 4 grades.
Just 2 quick questions. The 8% reimbursement, is
Yes,
that only on transportation only?
yes, sir.
And is there also any chance you could get some type of a grant from the state to help fund this?
Actually, that's interesting that you asked that question. Because we contract with Northwestern Illinois Association, and they are a public entity, we do not get the reimbursement from the state for this program. We haven't. It hasn't been different over the many years. So that 40,000 is 40,000.
So it'd be nice if we could get some more students to help offset costs.
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
Maybe I have like 3 questions.
It's all right.
The hearing impaired students who are in 1st, 3rd, 5th, 8th, high school age, what educational opportunities are there for them anywhere around? I mean, we have a hearing impaired student moving into the district who's a 1st grader next year. What will happen to that student?
As a 1st grader,
Yeah.
we would need to look at bringing in more staff.
Okay. You mentioned that there was a pre-K student who was going over to Geneva for assistance. Is the site in Geneva able to help these other?
No, it's only a pre-K center.
Okay, and then NIU's audiology department, where they train PhD audiologists, in town, are they able to give us any assistance with this support that we need for these students?
We contract with NIA, who, I don't know where they get their candidates, but most likely I'm just guessing, there's only a small pool of candidates out there who are audiologists in this field. So I think you're saying, can we contract with them?
Can we work with NIU?
We already do.
We just don't identify it that way?
We already work with NIU. They help with identifying students who have hearing losses. We already have that relationship with them.
Okay.
But the type of audiological support that our students need in the deaf and hard of hearing program is checking their hearing aids, making sure they're fitting, checking to make sure that, keeping up to date.
Got it. Thank you.
So we get reimbursed on transportation next year if we go to kids out of Knoxville.
80%, yes. It's far. It's over an hour away.
What are the costs of the program next year at Algonquin?
At this point, I haven't gotten a projected cost, but I'm just going to make an assumption. It's still around the 40,000 per student. It's a little more than 40,000 per student.
I couldn't read the cost here on my sheet, and I didn't get the update. You mentioned that there is I'm trying to make it bigger so I can read it here. You mentioned that there is space needs.
Yes.
For moving the program to DeKalb.
The space needs are I'm sorry.
And they have, you've identified 2 resource rooms.
Yes.
Is there no cost to prepare those rooms for this program?
No, it needs very little in those rooms at this point, and I believe they have, tables is what it would require. We're talking about like a reading room, the size of what we would use for a reading specialist.
I'm just asking, I don't
Yep.
know. So the
No,
cost
good
that I have here, of the difference between Hampshire and DeKalb, which I have here, I think older information, we have 14,000.
14,000,
That,
correct?
again, that cost includes potential revenue, which we don't, we don't know for sure yet because we don't know whether we've got the thumbs up for this program. So if we didn't get revenue from other districts, it would cost us $25,000 more than what we're paying now to move the program, based on these numbers here.
If we didn't have anyone else coming,
Right.
even I'm
just saying, if you don't have the additional revenue from other districts, if you take that off, then it costs us $25,000 more to have this program.
no, that's a 45,000 more,
So 56.
yes.
And so I think what I'd like to see is, if you're really looking at this, it'd be great to know, like, what are the costs for Algonquin with the reimbursements, because that's then kind of compared to, Hampshire's not an option, it doesn't matter what the cost there is. What's the cost for Algonquin compared to DeKalb? That's what I'd be interested in seeing.
I can do that.
I was asking, how much less time will the students spend on the bus per day?
2.5 hours. Well, I didn't subtract wherever they live in DeKalb.
The last board meeting, we had an opportunity to observe some students who were able to get a lot of use out of our Chromebooks to resolve visual problems. This device also has audio capabilities within it. Are there any uses that we could get out of this that would help to alleviate the situation in a way that might reduce cost or just make the students' learning situation somewhat better?
I would say that the benefits of our Chromebook would be the same for a student who's deaf and hard of hearing as many of our students who need something more visual. So I'm going to be honest with you, I think that this is a great tool, not only for all of our students, including our students who are deaf and hard of hearing. So to answer your question, no, it's not going to relieve some of the costs, if that's what you're referring to.
That's what I was hoping it would.
No.
I did. What I was wondering is, because we've been moving from town to town, are we even sure that Algonquin can hold it again next year?
Well, that was part of the discussion and reasons for bringing our students back here, is to maintain a consistent program in DeKalb for our students.
Yeah. And not to mention, being on the road that long, those buses or vans, whatever it takes, there's a liability out there, you know. It's a long ride.
Other questions? Do we have a consensus to bring this back at the next meeting?
Or update of that sheet, but I can't.
I will send that to you as I sit down. I'll share that with you. I'm sorry that you can't see that cost.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to move, yes, I just want to make sure we know what we're looking at.
And I understand that, I'm going to be honest with you, NIA probably will not be able to give me the exact costs. But what I can do is take the cost that we had this year, right? And take a look at, they may be able to give me possible projected costs, but they won't know until they know their enrollment. It's just like we won't know.
I don't care about all that.
All right.
Give me an
I'll give you an
guess.
educated guess,
And-
absolutely, including transportation.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Without the budget being passed, how confident are you that we're going to get 80% transportation reimbursement?
Not really.
Be honest.
My question was along the same lines. How is this paid for? Is it by the state?
About the transportation or this program?
Well, the program in general, the transportation is a specific question for Mary, but program in general, if we bring a program in-house, it's going to cost us more than it now costs us to send it outside. You know,
Yes,
we're working
it
with
is.
the
I'm
contractor,
being
NI is a contractor,
Yes.
right? Okay, but we pay for this by what revenue stream? The whole program.
The whole program has been purchased through our district funds.
So there's
I'm
no
being honest.
specific fund allocated to
Oh,
us by the
yes,
state
all
for
right.
this.
I'm going to answer that differently. Because it is a public entity, NIA, okay? A good portion of our IDEA grant funds our NIA services. So right now, it funds a good portion of our OT and PT services. Right now, it does not fund the deaf and hard of hearing program, but we're bringing all these services in district, and that can be part of that IDEA grant.
That's federal.
That is federal.
So that means, what would that mean? So somebody could write for a
Okay,
grant?
so, no, we have a grant every year. We write a grant for IDEA. It's a federal grant. For example, this year we received $1.1 million from the federal government specifically for special education. There are we have Read 180 as part of that as well. So within that grant, we currently, I'd say around 500,000 of that goes towards NIA. And it's how we design that. It's how we design that grant and divvy up how we're going to spend that money. Whatever we can't put into the grant goes into district funds.
So it is.
No, that's okay. I just have one last question. So, is there any other option other than DeKalb and Algonquin that makes sense?
No.
Why?
Oh, there is one other option. There's the Illinois School for the Deaf. That is residential, and it's in Jacksonville, Illinois.
Which is
Far.
farther than Algonquin.
Far, much farther than
That's it,
Algonquin.
though. That's it. There's no other option.
Is that a private institution?
No, it's a state-run, and it would be free to our district, but that would mean that our students would have to go and live in Jacksonville.
It's interesting, why isn't there one up here? There's much more population here than in Jacksonville. Good question.
Because the state put it there years and years and years ago.
I mean, do you apply, or how would you even, even how you would go about seeing if
Absolutely.
you could? What?
To Illinois School for the Deaf?
No. Do you know how you would be able, how would we be able to get similar services here in DeKalb? Is that possible? Do you know who you would ask?
For the Illinois School for another
How would you
center?
get the same free services that they have in Jacksonville here in DeKalb?
We do have them in DeKalb, but we have to access them in Jacksonville. There's only one for the whole state, and there's only one, I believe, in Wisconsin. And it's funded by the state and federal
So
government.
there won't be two centers. There's only one.
Correct.
Yeah, but why in the world did they put it in Jacksonville? The population density is zip
okay.
compared to Chicago.
Because they were concerned about the issue.
back 150 years.
Yeah.
So can you please supply the board with the request they
I
have?
sure will. Absolutely.
Prior to the next meeting.
I sure will.
And then do we have a consensus to bring it back based on it? Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And don't sit down here.
Yeah.
Next up is the student services audit update. Christie.
Yes,
This is
okay.
information.
Very good, right. I wanted to come in front of you again. If you recall, and it just seems like yesterday, that I was in front of you regarding our student service audit and the 10 recommendations from that audit that was done last year ago, January. So the first recommendation was that we should reinstate our multi-tiered system of support committee, or the MTSS committee. Amy Luckner and myself, we chair that committee, and it has been going since September. We have already been looking at universally defining our process. We put that together. And we've also taken a look at our individual problem-solving process. And as it shows there, right now we have subcommittees looking at interventions. So we're moving forward on that. Recommendation 2 was to improve the systems we use to determine how a student becomes eligible for special education. Within our MTSS committee, as well as our great psychologists, have been working to put our procedures into place. Additional work will need to be done this summer in order to make this a part of policy. We also, Brandon Royer, has been working diligently with our data management system called My Service Tracker. That's where we have all of our confidential files in a computerized system, My Service Tracker. He has been working with My Service Tracker to make sure that we get our Section 504 documentation in My Service Tracker. This will be great, along with our IPS, so that it doesn't matter what building you're in, you'll be able to access, if a student moves from one building to the next, you'll be able to access or transition from 5th grade to 6th grade or 8th to 9th, you'll be able to access their prior history as a team. That's going to be starting up training for next year. And then also, all of our staff procedures have been uploaded into Google folders so that our staff can access all our procedures easily, and that is also online for our families to access. Recommendation 3 is all about early childhood and making it a more inclusive educational opportunity. Lisa Gorshals and the good folks over at the ELDC have been working on ecological inventories to determine when a student might be ready to integrate into the general education, and they're also investigating a blended program for students who have the pre-academic skills but may struggle with social aspects of school life. In order to, recommendation 4, working together to teach all students in their least restrictive classroom. This year we've had a number of opportunities for professional development for all of our staff in those areas listed there. We've had professional development opportunities for so many of our instructional assistants that work very closely with our students who are integrated into the general classrooms. Recommendation 5, build capacity in our district to educate students who have been traditionally outplaced. As you know from my updates, we have 2 new programs that are starting next fall. Elementary Target, serving students who have emotional needs. Right now we have that program in middle school and high school. We do not have a program in elementary. We are going to have a new program next year in our elementary. That'll be housed at Brooks Elementary. This is a good thing because right now we don't have a continuum of services for all of our students who may have needs in this area. So what we've been doing is needing to outplace students who haven't been able to access the curriculum in a general ed setting, in our school setting. So this will be a more intensive setting where a teacher, a specialized teacher, is working with a small group of students of can be up to 13 with an assistant. Right now, it looks like we're at around close to 9 or 10, and we will be bringing back 3 of our outplaced students at this point. Tentatively, there's 3 that have been identified. There could be more to this elementary target program. So there you go. Not only are we between these 2 programs, the elementary target program and our other new program, the developmental communications program at Brooks, between those 2 programs right now we have slated 4 students to be coming out of outplacements and back to our district. Now when I consider the 11,000 per student that we tend to spend, it's a little over 11,000 per student that we spend in our general population. In outplacements, the average is between, like, I'd say the average is about 28,000. So here I'd say conservatively we're saving around $64,000 on the first year by bringing these programs into our district. That's not accounting for any students that we would have been outplacing because we didn't have the programs. Does that make sense? So this is a really great thing for our students to have a continuum of services right here in DeKalb. I'm sorry, can you go back one more? Thank you. I want to give a shout out to our coordinators in the student services who really have been working so, along with some of our wonderful specialists and the principals involved in this, to create these programs, both the elementary target and the developmental communications, to serve students who need a structured environment. Many of the students in developmental communications may be on this autism spectrum, don't have to be on the autism spectrum, but they need needs in the area of a structured environment, need for language opportunities and sensory opportunities. And that, again, we're going to be bringing students back that have been outplaced, as well as have an opportunity for those that currently have those needs in our district. Thank you. Recommendation 6 is all about building our capacity to deal with the social and emotional needs of our students, and this is about PBIS. These are the things that we've done this year, offered certified crisis prevention training. Thank you, Lisa Gorshels and Tricia Bailey. We also, Lisa taught de-escalation strategies to all of our instructional assistants. Brandon Royer and our awesome team at the high school in Target, they have been redesigning and restructuring the target programming and aligning that to PBIS. And then also, right now, we're in the process of investigating social emotional interventions at that secondary level as part of MTSS. Recommendation 7 is our parent advisory group. Dr. Lisa Becker has been chairing this, and we've had 3 parent nights, each quarter, that have been very successful. It's paired with, it's fun and learning at the same time. And for example, at each one of these, we've had a community agency come in and they're providing education to the families of students who have individual education plans, right? At the same time, we might be playing games as family groups. It's been a great addition to reach out to our families. Recommendation 8 is about our shared accountability, and this is part of it. It's sharing with you how we've been doing, having you think about, reflect upon what we're doing here in student services, and asking the right questions, getting it out there, letting everybody be on board. I just want to also say that so many of our coordinators and myself, we are involved in community agencies, making sure that we do have a shared accountability for the children that we serve. Recommendation 9 is optimizing our use of resources. We talked a little bit about that already, about trying to have a continuum of services here in DeKalb. With that, will bring savings to DeKalb, but also not only about the money, it's about having having access to all the services that we can provide our students here, and so that we can make sure that students are in their least restrictive environment. We did some aligning of our coordinators to the various district programs so we can be efficient and effective in that way. We've been doing the PD, that's a good use of our, we've been doing a lot of PD on how to utilize instructional assistants. When I came to you all in September, I talked to you about how we are overstaffed compared to many other districts in our use of individual instructional assistants. So we're looking at why that is and how we can look to increase student independence. We also redefined our adaptive PE service delivery model. Through that redefining and that service delivery model, we did reduce 1 FTE in that regard, and we shifted social emotional support to the areas of greatest need. I expressed to you in our weekly update how we are moving 1 social worker FTE from the elementaries to the high school because of the need at next year at the high school level. And lastly, just means that I'm here sharing this and making sure things are coordinated. Do you have any questions? That was a lot. So thank you for the update. Thank you. Sure.
Next, we have the proposal for advanced placement U.S. history materials, Dr. Vicki Tuskin and Christine Best, and this is an informational item.
Good evening, how are you? I know, I think it's a video or something. Dr. reading my book. Good evening, my name is Christine Best, and I teach AP US History at DeKalb High School. I'm also the area coordinator, and the lovely Dr. Tuskin is getting my very lengthy, whopping 6-slide PowerPoint available for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm loud, I'm brief, it'll be great. This is the textbook that I'm proposing. It's called Give Me Liberty by Eric Foner. I can pass this around if you'd like. As far as textbooks go, it's a pretty awesome example. In addition, in the textbook price, they're also, the textbook publisher Norton is also giving us a copy of these primary source readers. For the traditionally U.S. history is divided up from 1491 to through the Civil War and Reconstruction 1877 and the 1877 to the present. So if you'd like to look at these beautiful specimens of
And we'll
textbooks.
read these again, display, right, for the days?
Yes, absolutely. I'll read these here.
Okay.
I have a little copies. And the front side, if you didn't see, was Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, and I played on Patrick Henry, of course. The video was kind enough to go back, thank you. The rationale for the textbook is College Board requires that we get new textbooks every 10 years. This is especially relevant in U.S. history, simply because U.S. history, evolves. We've done a lot of history has happened in the past 10 years, and it's important that the textbooks keep up with that. Additionally, College Board in their infinite wisdom has expanded the U.S. history curriculum. In the past, it used to be roughly 1492, so Columbian Exchange, and you got up really through the Reagan administration. Reagan, from a while ago. And so what they decided to do was expand out and focus more on skills. So now we've expanded from 1491, so pre-Columbian history, all the way through to the present. Their definition of present, mine are a little bit different, but all the way through to modern day. But we're still talking September 11th, the Obama election, all of that stuff that's more relevant, and that's why it's another reason that a new textbook is valuable for this course. And then additionally, we really need a quality textbook. The textbook we have now is 42 chapters long. And it's a lot. It's a lot of information, and it's written by a number of different authors, which makes it a challenge for students to read. This textbook alleviates some of those problems. Fewer chapters, 14 fewer chapters, and additionally, it's only written by, or it is written by one author, which helps with the narrative, which goes along. I think I'm a little bit ahead of myself. College Board does have a list of textbooks from which to choose that are approved that they think are appropriate for the course, and Give Me Liberty is one of those texts. I did contact publishers in the spring of last year and got a number of samples in, and what I then did was I read some sections, I had students read some sections, and I really whittled it down to Give Me Liberty and then America's History America's History by Bedford. I thought They Give Me Liberty was the superior text. Not a lot of focus on minutia. Dates are important, but the number of people migrating from one place to the other is less important. And Bedford's really focused on numbers. And I want my students to focus on bigger ideas so that they can apply the content knowledge to skills, reading, writing, analysis. That's more important than remembering the number of people. In terms of listing out why Give Me Liberty is the winner, I've already mentioned that it was written by a single author. Additionally, when he revised the text, he did make a conscious effort to embed the historical thinking standards the College Board has focused upon into the textbook. There's a big focus on contextualization. What is going on in the larger picture? Additionally, to synthesis, how are each time period, how are they interconnected with one another? And getting students to think about those connections, that history does not take place in a vacuum. Obviously, one event definitely leads to the other. And again, with that single author focusing on big picture, rather than, as I mentioned earlier, with regard to the minutia of numbers. The two other books that are going are those primary source readers, and those are additional materials that are included. We do a lot of work with primary sources in all of the EP classes the Social Studies Department offers, and those readers would go far in helping us achieve those goals. We've got a number of primary sources, so those are extra helpful. Study Space is the student website that the textbook publisher is offering out to students, and as we are going to the technology initiative of one-to-one, students will have those resources at their fingertips. Quizzes and other study tools in addition to my website and a number of the resources I already provide. They also have a wealth of instructor resources, and I think that was included in the packet. They list out kind of a line item, some stuff that is valuable to me, a lot of the test prep materials that are digitized. You don't have to hand type questions into tests, hand type those primary sources. A lot of those resources are incredibly valuable and are included in the cost book. So I'm asking for 75 textbooks and also 75 e-licenses per year. And when you purchase the textbook, the first year of the ebook is free. Bargain price. If we get down to numbers, the text is $110, which sounds like a lot, but for a college level history textbook, pretty much a bargain. They're throwing in for no additional cost. They're throwing in those primary source readers and the first year of the ebook. And the e-license is $6 per license a year. And then for the 9 years, the grand total of everything, including the shipping costs, is just over $12,000. $12,600. I think that's a bargain. Do you think that that's a bargain? Your parents give me the money for my textbooks. What questions do you have? Yes, ma'am.
Why do we need ebooks and textbooks?
Well, the textbooks, honestly, are what I would prefer. Most of the students, I polled students that have taken the course in the past and asked them, a number of whom are already in college, if they prefer to use a textbook or the ebook, and they prefer the textbook. If we just went with the e-license, I don't know if I included that up there. If we just went with, oh yes it is there. If we just included the e-license without the textbook, it's almost $67 just for the ebook.
Okay.
So I thought that it was worth the additional cost to get the bang for the buck with the two. I'd be perfectly happy with just using the textbooks. For the most part, I recommend that the students leave those books at home and they live there, because most of the work that we're doing, we don't do textbook work in class. We don't have that kind of time. They're reading at home, they're doing the work at home, and they're coming in and we're applying those concepts. Okay.
I thought I always heard that the College Board required a textbook, and when I heard that, I assumed it was a hard
copy of the textbook.
Right.
And I think College Board has not been clear about their expectations with textbook. Each student is required to have a book, so it's a little unclear if we could get away with just the ebooks. But I think for the cost,
Do
you think?
It's going to give you some options.
Yes.
Other questions?
How does this course compare to an entry-level college course in the same topic?
Well, in college courses, traditionally you would take a semester. So you would take, like at Northern, you would take History 260, which is the early part of U.S. history through the Civil War. And my course, for the most part, corresponds to that. We typically get through the Civil War and Reconstruction first semester. In terms of the workload that we're doing, because I see them every day, they're probably doing more work in my class than they're doing in a college class. Just because you go to college class, most of those lower level history classes tend to be lecture-based, they might do a little bit of writing. We're much more hands-on skills, much more of the analysis, the writing, the critical thinking, debating, that at least when I went through college with history classes, we didn't do a whole lot of, because the class size was so large.
So is there any chance you can get college credit for a course taken in high school when it's an advanced placement?
With advanced placement, what the option is that you can take the advanced placement history test, and if you score well enough on that test, you can earn college credit. Right now, I do believe that the state passed, I think it was last year, a law that said that if you earn a 3 or higher, that Illinois schools will accept that for some form of credit. They're letting the schools determine what exactly that looks like. At NIU, if you get a 3 or better, and it's a scale of 1 to 5, on the APO's history test, you can get out of 2 courses. Both of those history classes I mentioned, History 261, or 260 and 261.
Great. Would be a good cost savings for people.
It is.
Other questions?
Eric Foner, the author, is a very well-regarded scholar. And when I find myself in complete agreement with somebody, as I do with Eric Foner, I think, oh my gosh, this is way too far to the political left. Is it possible that we may be presenting something as the history of the United States that brings people to too extreme a position?
I was very careful when I looked at the textbooks, and that was actually one of the things I looked at very closely. I wanted to be careful not to get a book. A number of historians do tend to lean left. I want my students to come up with their own idea, and so we focus on the facts. That doesn't mean that we don't look at biased perspectives, but then they need to recognize that bias, and we need to talk about that. This is the most balanced U.S. history textbook I've ever read. I know, I'm sorry, but it's pretty balanced. I fully went into the textbook thinking that he would be very conservative, actually, on the one side, and he was very balanced. Very fair depiction of controversial issues such as Vietnam, such as the Clinton impeachment. Going back further, very fair on Andrew Jackson, the Indian Removal Act. So some really controversial topics in U.S. history that he was very balanced on. And then I can bring in primary sources to look at the biased sides of those viewpoints. So it gives a nice, even keel backbone narrative for the students to then build from when they come into class.
Do we have consensus to bring this back?
Okay.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Next, we have Lead 180 update. Dr. Vicki Tuscan. This is an informational.
Good evening. I'm coming before you to give you an update on Read 180. If you recall, at the beginning of the school year, I came before you, it was around September 1st, and you approved the purchase of licenses and materials so that we could implement a cohesive reading intervention program at the middle school and at the high school. Since then, and I'm going to be sharing some data with you, we've had this program in place, and my purpose of coming before you tonight is to give you an update both in terms of how the program is going, but also I brought you some pieces of data in terms of how our students are doing. So for the academic year 2015-2016, if you recall, at Huntley Middle School and Clinton Rosette Middle School, we have in place Read 180, and these are for students 2 grade levels or below. They take Read 180 in place of the double block language arts, so it's core replacement. There is 1 class for each grade level of Read 180 at Clinton Rosette, and 2 classes for each grade level at Huntley Middle School. The class sizes are kept small. The ideal size is 15, although there are a few sections that can contain close to 20. At present, the number of students who are in Read 180 at Clinton Rosette are 58, and at Huntley Middle School are 78. We also have a program that's not nearly as intense at Huntley Middle School and Clinton Rosette Middle School, Read 180 Stretch. And these are for students who are either A, below grade level, about 1 grade level below, academic, and are struggling academically, or have made significant enough progress in the intensive Read 180 double block core replacement that they're ready to enter into the gen ed language arts, but need that additional support as they continue to make progress in their reading ability. At present, we have 29 students at Clinton Rosette and 40 at Huntley. Then for DeKalb High School, we have 2 sections of double block Read 180 for that Foundations of Literacy class. You remember at the high school, you have the different levels of literacy as students are coming in as freshmen, and so that Foundations Literacy is a double block of Read 180. We began with 20 students between the 2 sections. However, at the end of the first semester, and really the MAP data really helped us to identify 6 additional students and have been enrolled, and so at present we have 26 students at the freshman level. Also throughout the year, the Read 180 teachers, and there's 2 at Huntley, 1 at Rosette, and 1 at the high school, have been receiving coaching support and PD from Amanda Spetzel, our Read 180 coaching representative. That piece was included in the proposal that you approved back in September. We have certainly had our share of challenges, and I want you to know about these. Being a new program, we had certainly hurdles that we had to overcome. To begin with, the materials that we needed were late in coming, and so the program didn't really get up and going until almost late September. Also, we didn't have the placement data that we have now, and so we had to make adjustments early on. And what I mean by that is last year, because last year we didn't have MAP. MAP is new to us this year. Last year, in terms of projecting numbers for the middle school and high school, we had to heavily rely on our Ames Web data, but then we did a blanket SRI, Scholastic Reading Inventory, to get a gauge on the reading level of our students. And we did that 5th grade through 8th grade. One of the things we discovered in the fall, when we were implementing that in the spring, in May, there was a really big thing going on at the same time. It was that 2nd session of PARC. And so we found going into the fall of September that we had some students who had really registered what I would call a false negative. They were tapped out. They had, and, you know, we've had SRI, we had PARC, we had this, we had that, and then we added in that other SRI piece, but we needed that data point. So we had to make some adjustments early on in terms of placement of students. Also, and this won't ever really happen again, but because MAP was brand new like this year, normally at the middle school level, we do data teams and Ames Web benchmarking in September, and data teams meet at the end of September, and that's when students are identified. But because MAP was brand new, MAP was given, but the middle school didn't have any data team meetings until November. So we had our initial group of students in Read 180, but we really had to wait post early November to really identify additional students who needed to be in this program. So we had to overcome that and really at the same time help our staff understand the new MAP data and how to read it and how to more accurately identify students who really needed that piece. So additional placements in the program were slow in coming early on. However, telling you all of those challenges, I have a lot of really good news to share with you. What Scholastic does, Scholastic is the company that supports Read 180. At the mid-year point, Scholastic does a mid-year data draw. And so they go into SAM, it's called SAM, and they pull the data from the SRI that's given to the students in January. They pull data in terms of how much time they spent on the software, data in terms of how they've done on the different progress monitoring, the different tests. They pull all of that, and they put together a really comprehensive report, which we received in February. It's a multi-page report. I did not bring you that full report, otherwise I'd be standing here for 45 minutes. And I know a few people back there that would kill me. So what I did is I pulled a couple pieces that I actually shared with Curriculum Council and District Rising Star. This piece here that you're looking at, this pie chart, this is representative of our accuracy in terms of placing students into Read 180. The sweet spot with Read 180 in terms of what it was designed to do is that Lexile level of 400, which is, thank you, Tammy, is that yellow square up through the green one that goes to 999. Now realize this data pool came for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students. So when we're talking about Lexile, we're talking about a wide range. But given the student grades that we're addressing in Read 180, that's our sweet spot. So if you look in the pie chart, the 42 students, that 21%, that yellow, the big bright green, the 114 students at 56%, and then the darker green, 37 students at 18%, you can see that the majority of our students across 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade have been appropriately placed. So that clearly the majority of our students, as of February, were appropriately placed in Read 180. Now those tiny little slivers, so that little orange piece and the red next to it, technically within the range of Read 180, those students are somewhat low below the threshold of what Read 180 can do for them. Scholastic has a different program called Systems 44 that's more phonics-based, but the cost is exorbitant, and we didn't have the numbers, as you can see, that would justify implementing a whole additional program. What we have done for those students, working with Scholastic, with Amanda, our coach, and also our area coordinator through Scholastic, we're working with our Read 180 teachers to differentiate and utilize the materials we have to address those needs. If you look at the other end of that pie chart, that little blue sliver, that blue sliver is a small group. It's 3 students who really were beyond that spectrum of Read 180. They were those 3 that I remember when I referenced how we had some kids in there that maybe shouldn't have been in there. Their Lexile was a little bit higher. I also know for a fact 2 of those 3 had made progress and really were ready to be exited. And I know for sure that one of them has been exited from the program. But the point of showing you the pie chart is that with the data we're getting through MAP and through our data teams, we're really being able to really target the students that belong in the program. And that's really good news, especially for a new program in terms of how we're implementing it. That's not clear. But I think this is the data that I think made us the most excited. At the beginning of the year in Read 180, and this is based on normative data of students across the country that are part of this program, and based on the data of our students, end-of-year goal growth is established for our individual students, but also as a school. And so if you look at the black columns first, you'll see for DeKalb High School, for Huntley Middle School, and Clinton Reset Middle School. Those black columns represent the growth we wanted in terms of Lexile points over the course of the entire year. So at the end of the year, the goal growth for DeKalb High School for the students in Read 180 were 55 Lexile points. For Huntley Middle School, 62. Clinton Reset Middle School, 68, and 61. And you'll see the student numbers. That's the number of students whose data was pulled, because the other thing they do with a mid-year report is students whose data is pulled, they have to have logged in sufficient number of minutes to make the data relevant. So we've had a number of students who have been enrolled since then. This represents the students who were enrolled at about the end of January. We have more students in it at this point. Okay. The red represents how much growth in terms of Lexile has taken place by the beginning of February. So at the mid-year, across the board, the students overall have doubled that year-end growth at mid-year. And that was very exciting. It was incredibly exciting. I keep looking at Lauren. It was incredibly exciting for our Read 180 teachers because this was also new. They were diving in. It was wonderful affirmation for them. I think this is at the point where I want to, it was exciting for our building administrators. I cannot say enough how hard James and Tom and Tim worked to make the schedule work, to accommodate the teachers, to make sure we had the resources we needed. I mean, it really was an affirmation of really the whole team approach to making this work. So it was a clear yay that we were on the right track. This last slide of data that I put in here, and for those of you who are familiar with the Ames Web rainbow charts, what this is really showing, at the beginning of the year, and I'm just going to, I wouldn't even worry so much about the numbers, look at the colors. At the beginning of the year, the majority of our students were below basic. That's that blue column there. 118 students of the data we pulled were below basic. What that really means is they were well 2 grade levels below. Initial, and we're talking about at the beginning of the year, 55 of the students were at basic. They were below grade level as far as Common Core goes, but they were operating at a very basic level. When you then look at the red column, you can see the dramatic shift. When you look at the first one below basic, that number has dropped significantly from 118 to 66. Where did those students go? Well, if you keep moving to the right, you can see the number of kids in basic has gone up. Now we're looking at 93 in basic. And at that mid-year point, 14 had moved proficient. And I'm keeping this really simple. I mean, we could really get into psychometrics and the whole thing, but we won't do that tonight. But it's the point of just showing in a different way that the program is really addressing the needs of our students. So I really wanted to finish with the victories that we've had so far with MAP data in hand. And I really, again, I'm going to thank the board again because that was a big initiative that you approved last year. And I could go on and on and on, as Jenny could, as our building principals could, as our teachers could, how important that data has become for us, especially at the secondary level. So as we move forward with MAP data in hand, we've been able to develop better entrance criteria for placement into Read 180 for the remainder of this year and into next year. What we're not having to do anymore is that wide sweeping screening of SRI of 5th to 8th grade teachers, and I know elementary is breathing a sigh of relief about that. We've been able to develop exit criteria for students that meet those thresholds of ready to move from Read 180 to Stretch, and from Stretch then on out. Both middle schools have been able to develop protocol for screening students now that data teams are in full swing. They've also, both middle schools, have developed protocols in terms of when there's a concern a teacher has about a student and how they communicate that with our Read 180 teachers and getting that placement piece in place. That's also still a work in progress, but it's really come together. And then the other victory at DHS next year. So we have those 26 students at the high school who are freshmen. What is going to happen to them next year as sophomores? And so by reallocating some of the resources at the middle school level and shifting some of the licenses, we're actually going to be able to expand Read 180 to support those struggling readers that move into that sophomore level, because most of them are not going to be ready to just exit, and the last thing we want to do is just then throw them out. So we are going to have a sophomore class. It won't be a full block. It'll look kind of like Read 180 Stretch, but that support will continue to support those sophomores, as well as continue that support for the incoming freshmen.
Vicki, I attended a meeting earlier today and saw that there is now a Math 180.
Yes, there is.
And I'm hoping that folks in the curriculum area are looking at it.
I have looked at it. And if you didn't come up with the money, I would bring it here in a heartbeat. It's a great program, actually. Sorry.
No.
Yeah, you buying those lottery tickets.
So, I mean, it's an outstanding job. I mean, looks like. Congratulations on that. As far as Lexile gain growth, it looks like you've already met, your end of year target. How do you finish strong then in the second half of the year?
Oh, yeah, there's your challenge too. Yes.
How do you improve on what you've already done?
That's a great question. I'm going to give you a really short answer. So if you go back to that slide where we saw growth for end of the year and that initial growth of about 51 points Lexile and how our students have superseded that already, keep in mind the students that we are working with are really far below grade level. We're talking they have to make gains of in some cases 200 to 300 Lexile to get to grade level. So we've made great gains for our students, but they still have a ways to go. The other point to keep in mind, particularly as you move into secondary, the growth is harder to come by. It doesn't, those big gains don't happen as easily or as quickly, and that goes back to more in terms of literacy development and growth, whereas you'll see bigger gains in growth just in terms of just the normal growth in literacy at the elementary level. Those gains are bigger, but as you just move in normal time, as you move into secondary, those growth gains get smaller, just in the normal setting. So we're greatly encouraged by this, but we still have a long ways to go, and our kids have a long way to go.
Right, so I understand like the results are sort of peanut butter over all the kids in it.
Sure.
So there's kids that need, more work than others. Do you then shift resources to those kids, or
you shift within the program itself? One of the big areas of growth that for our Read 180 teachers for next year will really be as they get more and more comfortable with the program. The program has lots of layers to it. They're going to become much more adept at differentiating. The resources are already there in the program. Our teachers, as they get more comfortable with all those layers, will even get better at differentiating, so that in a group, let's say you have a 7th grade group of students, 15 students, who could be anywhere from a Lexile, say 400, which is pretty low. That's like low 3rd grade, up to maybe a student who's pushing the edge of the envelope and maybe getting ready to exit at a 900. So it's really where that's going to happen is how our teachers become more adept at utilizing those tools and differentiating within the program itself. And utilizing the data, I mentioned earlier about the exit criteria. If I were to pull up the SAM dashboard, there are multiple data points that the teachers look at in terms of where their progress is, not just the Lexile, and that's pretty important, but they look at different benchmarks for comprehension, vocabulary development, and the SAM.
But you make a note, and I imagine at the end of the year, you'll have just make a note to include this slide from the mid-year data.
Oh, sure.
So we can see. I think I'm shocked. I mean, I don't know anything about really, but I'm impressed. I'm shocked. I'm excited to see what continued growth for that.
Well, and I will come back to you in August, because in July, I will meet with the Scholastic representatives again, because they will do an end-of-the-year data pull, like we did mid-year, and I want to bring that data back to you. Also, I made a promise to you in September that we would begin to collect data on cohorts of students within our district to see if there's some trends, if in terms of if some of the movement of student populations in terms of mobility is having an impact on need. So working with Dr. Luckner, we've identified some cohorts, and we're going to start pulling that and track some of that data, and I'm going to try to share that with you in August as well. We definitely have our challenges. I mean, I definitely painted some, hit the high points. We still have to keep working on our protocol. We still have to do a better job of identifying our students. And one of the things I failed to mention, at the middle school, and I don't want to get all the details of the middle school schedule. In a perfect world, when we have students in Read 180, that double block, and then they start to get closer to grade level, what we had hoped is that then we could move them into that stretch. But the middle school schedule is such that there is one column in the course of the school day for each grade level where interventions take place, but also things like band, orchestra, choir. And so we have students who need to be in stretch, but because it butts up against a lot of other things that happen in that period, it's been a real struggle to get that enrollment in stretch, whether for students who are just struggling and need the boost, or creating that transition, the students are ready to move out of that double block and back into the classroom. So something that we're looking at and working on, again, working with our teachers, how can we then hold our students in such a way and Read 180 and differentiate and really equip them. And the other piece we have to work on is that communication piece between our reading specialists, the Read 180 teachers, and the academic team. So we still have plenty of work to do, but at least our initial steps forward have been good ones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is the non-business consent agenda. The Board of Education approved the non-business consent agenda items A through I. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second. Discussion?
Item 6F, we have travel for the French Club. I'm curious about how funds are being raised and also why the trip includes a trip into Italy for a French club.
We actually have our French Club advisor here.
Well, I'm Natalia Zimmerman. I'm a French teacher at DeKalb High School. And, well, it is not the only French club trip. It is a trip for all students in the French program. And as in our district, we have only 2 foreign language offered, Spanish and French. And in our French program, I try to give the students the opportunity to see several things and explore several things of the having to do with the culture of the French-speaking world in general. And this trip, particularly, I think it already had the great interest from the students and the parents because it gives the opportunity to, first time I believe in our school district, to explore the connection of the countries which are connected historically and connected with the 2 languages. And I think the student will be absolutely amazed to learn how learning, and by the way, I have a lot of students with a Spanish background in class, and they do absolutely wonderfully in French class because this is the same group of languages. Those are Romance languages. Now, Italian, this is the new domain to explore, and students will be absolutely, I'm pretty sure, amazed to find out that already knowing French, and some of them know Spanish also, they will be able to understand and learn so much from the culture of the neighboring country. Not to mention that in the curriculum of the high school and the part of the general culture to learn about the Renaissance, literature, architecture, which is the part of the humanity class. That is absolutely a valuable experience that no one could really underestimate. So this is the first part of the question. The second part of the question is about the funds, I believe. So most that would be self-funded by those who would like to go, and then we have still a whole year to be able to do fundraiser if the parents would be willing help with that. So it's planned for spring break of next year. And it's a 10 days trip, so it would be absolutely fantastic experience, I believe.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, roll call, please.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicky Favor.
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Terry Millat.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Next we have, I'm sorry.
With the approval of the non-business consent agenda, the board just approved the hiring of Ms. Michelle Albano. Want to stand up, Michelle, for a second? You're going to speak to me. Michelle is currently the interim principal at Bolingbrook High School. They have a student population of about 3,700 students, and is also has worked to actually do a double duty, something I can relate to, as still the assistant principal at Bolingbrook for curriculum instruction. She's got an extensive background. I would say she very purposely has created a career path that has exposed her to a large, diverse population, even back from her student teaching at DeKalb High School in Chicago. She worked at Carpentersville, worked in Elgin, and a lot of high poverty schools. So I just feel with tremendous confidence. And she's also got a great curriculum background, both in terms of humanities and English language arts. So, Michelle Albano.
Well, I just want to say I feel that it's an honor to even be brought before the board. I've met a lot of you, and I've just been so impressed. A lot of times people feel like, you know, well, what are you going to bring to the district? One of the things that most impressed me is what I feel like I can not only bring to the district, but also get from the district, because I feel like I have such an opportunity to grow here with all the offerings. I was noting to the board, for example, that going from a school that's 3,700 students to a school that's about 1,800, I feel that there are so many more offerings here. The resources, NIU, really impressive. I'm just extremely excited for this opportunity. So thank you to everybody who's welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry, I just have a very important update to share with everybody. Dory De La Cruz, who is a social worker, just texted me and asked me to share with everyone. Her son had a heart transplant today. He's a student at DeKalb High School, and I just got to see him. She said he's doing well, he looks great. The next 3 days are pretty critical, but he's really doing well. He's grateful to the
Business consent agenda. That the board approved, that the Board of Education approved the business consent agendas A through D. Is there a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Vicky Favor.
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes.
Terry Millat.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Rick Smith.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Next is business and finance. Approval of bid results, pavement projects for foundation in Clinton Rosette. Tammy Carson, this is an action item. That the Board of Education approve base bid number 3 with a combined base bids of 1 and number 2 for the expansion of Clinton Rosette Middle School front parking lot and resurfacing of the Founders back parking lot in the amount of $270,580 awarded to Royer Asphalt Paving from DeKalb, Illinois. In addition to the base bid, approve alternate bid number 1 for the improvements to the Clinton Rosette Middle School back parking lot in the amount of $177,000 awarded to Royer Asphalt Paving from DeKalb, Illinois, and reject base bid number 1 and base bid number 2 in lieu of accepting the combined bid of base bid number 3.
Ready to follow that?
Yeah, so Tammy, I think we're probably gonna need some clarification.
And I did try with this board rec because of all the questions from the mulch board rec to spell out under the options all the potential what ifs. Please keep in mind that this is a TIP funded project with the TIP funding agreement that we have with the city of DeKalb. There is no district operating funds that are going to be used for any of these projects. Along with these, I've also broken out in the recommendation what TIP funding has already been approved, which includes architect, engineering, and contingency fees, as well as if these projects that I'm recommending are approved, how much that still remains into funding that could be looked towards future projects, either this year or we do the agreement through next summer that we can continue to under the same agreement.
Sorry, I didn't ask for a motion after reading all that. So, do I have a motion?
So,
Second. Yes.
Tammy, the front parking lot of Clinton Rosette School, as you define it, that's the area from First Street where you turn in, parents drop the kids off there and then continue on out. That's what we mean by the front parking lot?
That's correct.
Okay. In that front parking lot or adjacent to that on the south end is a area of concrete walkway, sidewalk. Is that included as part of this? It is pretty well cracked up, or is that not?
We are not looking at any sidewalk replacement within this project except where it's affected by the new parking lot structures. We are looking to add in the back a parking lot, or excuse me, a sidewalk stretch from basically around the gym door towards the football field because of the change in student drop-off and pickup plans for that, as well as expanding the event entrance parking lot because of ADA requirements.
Okay. At the bottom of the area where Pond Street, if you went across the street and walk down that pathway, there's quite a bit of very consistent water pooling in there. Is that going to be removed so that the job doesn't need to be redone again in 3 years?
That's not addressed in this proposal.
Okay, so can you just like rough it up for me? What are we gonna do in the front of Clinton Rosette to alleviate some of the traffic?
Well, what we actually, when we started to design this, I worked with Tim Vincent as well as Officer Jaquez, who works at the middle schools, to talk about the backlog that we have and the safety issues that could be created if we continued to have the parent drop off and pick up, or the student drop off and pick up in the front. Because with this new parking lot, if you think of the front drive as a U shape, it connects two sides of the U, and that's where the parking spaces will be, connecting those two sides. We weren't going to benefit or add any more space unless we brought that traffic for the parents' traffic into the parking lot. And we really didn't feel that was a safe way to handle student drop-off and pickup, because then they'd be crossing so many lanes of traffic, as well as near cars that are parking, backing up, pulling in, etc. So before we went out to bid, we decided, we took a step back on this and went out on one of the busiest, coldest days of the year and counted cars that were pulling in at 2:25. How backed up were we? Because they dismissed at 2:30. Counted cars in the street, and to figure out the length of a car, and we took that information and made the determination that we can actually put the parent, or the student drop-off and pickup in the back, where the buses currently drop off and pick up, and between the parking and the entrance, the lining up that we can do, we will not have the backup onto First Street that we currently have at dismissal. And that was a big concern that was brought to us by the city of DeKalb, because if we're driven on that at 2:30, you can't get through. You know, that's just with only the one turn lane heading south. It is a problem if you're heading north. So we took all those measurements, figured out with buses, the maximum number of buses, what we could do in the front, and there's more than enough space to handle the buses in that current U and put the parent traffic in the back and still be able to leave that new parking lot in the front available for anyone who would need to pull in and park or have been parked there throughout the day because of being a visitor or any other reason. We'll still have event parking in the back that would take place, but those games don't start up till
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, so by then the parent traffic is gone.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. So parents dropping their kids off at school would be going along the north side, turning in from First Street into the back parking lot, and then exiting back up on the spur from Sycamore Road to First Street.
That is correct. and it would be a one-way traffic situation all day, every day. So you would only be able to come into First Street. It would be a left and a right turn lane at that point, because when you come out of that way, it's a one-way, so we have 2 lanes of traffic that could either opt to turn left or right. The right would also have the option to go straight should they want to cross over to the city street across the street. Officer Jaquez is also talking with the city about the possibility of needing a crossing guard there, that we need to gauge that and get their thoughts, because there are students that use that to cross over to that passageway between Sycamore Road and First Street.
Any other questions? Great, roll call, please.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Terry Millat,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
No.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Hernan Baker.
Yes. Next, we have new business administration, approval of Pearson Algebra 2 materials. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the purchase of Pearson Algebra 2 materials for a total purchase price cost of $51,785.23, as outlined in the attached documents. Have a motion?
So,
Discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Terry Millat,
Yes.
Victoria Newport,
Yes.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Hernan Baker,
Yes.
Mary Hess.
Yes. Approval of the Board of Education meeting schedule for the 2016-2017 school year. This is an action item. That the Board of Education approve the board meeting schedule for the 2016-2017 school year as attached. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Rick Smith,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Hernan Baker,
Yes.
Mary Hess,
Yes.
Terry Millat,
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes. All right, and with that, the meeting will be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.